Have you ever wondered how different your life could have been? What if you had taken that job, moved to a different city, said yes instead of no? At every major crossroads in life, there were other possibilities, other futures. Most of us assume those futures never happened. They simply disappeared the moment we made our choice. But what if that's not true? And those possibilities never vanished at all, and the future you're moving toward right now already exists? It sounds impossible. After all, we experience time as a steady march from past to present to future. The past is gone, the present is happening now, and the future hasn't happened yet. At least, that's what we've always assumed. But over the last century, some physicists, philosophers, and consciousness researchers have arrived at a far more unsettling possibility. What if the future isn't waiting to happen? What if it's already there? Your entire life exists all at once. And what if consciousness is somehow moving through that larger reality, experiencing one moment at a time? Today, we're going to explore one of the strangest ideas ever proposed about the nature of time, an idea that emerged from modern physics, an idea that challenges everything we think we know about the future, and an idea that may have surprising connections to consciousness, intuition, and the possibility that reality is far bigger than it appears. Welcome to The Conscious Creator, where we explore the unseen forces shaping our reality. For most of us, time seems pretty straightforward. The past has already happened. The future hasn't happened yet. And right now we're somewhere in between. We make decisions, take action, and gradually move forward into a future that's still being written. At least that's how it feels. The interesting thing is that nobody really questions this. It's simply the way we've been taught to think about time. But over the last century, some scientists began to wonder whether our experience of time and the actual structure of reality might be two very different things. And that question led to one of the strangest ideas ever proposed. The possibility that the future isn't being created moment by moment. The possibility that it's already there. To understand where that idea came from, we need to start with a physicist who completely changed the way we think about reality. The idea that the future might already exist sounds strange enough on its own. What's even stranger is that the conversation didn't begin with consciousness researchers or philosophers. It began with physics. In the early 20th century, Albert Einstein introduced ideas that completely changed the way scientists understood space and time. Before Einstein, most people assumed time was universal, the same for everyone. A giant cosmic clock ticking forward second by second, simple, predictable, obvious. Einstein's work challenged that picture. As scientists explored the implications of his discoveries, some began to realize that time might be far more mysterious than anyone had imagined. Years later, after the death of his close friend Michel Besso, Einstein wrote something that continues to spark discussion today. He said, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." It's a remarkable statement. Notice that Einstein wasn't saying the past never happened. He wasn't saying the future doesn't matter. He was questioning something much deeper. The assumption that yesterday, today, and tomorrow are fundamentally separate things. For most of us, that separation feels obvious. The past is gone. The future hasn't arrived. And the present is all that's real. But Einstein's work led some scientists and philosophers to wonder whether reality might be structured very differently than it appears from our everyday perspective. What if all moments exist as part of something larger? That question would eventually lead to one of the most fascinating ideas ever proposed about the nature of time, an idea known as the block universe. So, what exactly is the block universe? At its core, the idea is surprisingly simple. The block universe suggests that the past, present, and future all exist as part of a larger structure. Instead of reality being created one moment at a time, the entire timeline already exists. That doesn't mean we're aware of the entire timeline. It simply means that every moment is part of the whole. One way to think about it is to imagine a map. If you're standing in one location, that's the only place you can directly experience. You can look around, you can describe what you see, you can interact with your surroundings. But the rest of the map still exists beyond your immediate location. The towns behind you exist. The towns ahead of you exist. Your position determines what you're currently experiencing, not what exists. According to the block universe, time may work in a similar way. The moment you call the past still exists as part of the structure. The moment you're experiencing right now exists. And the moments you call the future exist as well. Another way to picture it is to imagine a completed novel. When you begin reading the first chapter, the ending already exists. The characters don't know what's coming. The reader doesn't know what's coming. Yet the entire story is already there. Page 1 doesn't create page 2. Page 2 doesn't create page 3. They're all part of the same book. The block universe suggests reality may be more like a completed story than an unfolding one. And that's where many people begin to feel uncomfortable. Because if the future already exists, a natural question immediately arises. What about free will? What about choice? What about all of those moments when we stand at a crossroads and make a decision that changes the direction of our lives? The block universe doesn't provide easy answers. In fact, this is one of the reasons it remains such a debated idea. Some people hear it and conclude that everything must already be determined. Others argue that free will and the block universe could somehow coexist. The truth is that no one has settled the debate. But regardless of where you stand, the idea forces us to look at time in a completely different way. Most of us think of the future as empty, a blank page waiting to be written. The block universe asks us to consider a very different possibility. What if the future isn't empty at all? What if it's already part of reality? And if that's true, another question naturally follows. Why don't we experience it that way? Why does life feel like it's unfolding moment by moment? Why do we experience uncertainty, possibility, anticipation, and surprise? In other words, if the timeline already exists, what exactly is creating our experience of moving through it? And that's where the conversation begins to shift away from physics and toward consciousness. Up to this point, we've been looking at a fascinating idea from physics. But now we arrive at the question that interests me most. If the block universe is even partially correct, what exactly is consciousness doing? Think about it for a moment. If the timeline already exists, why does life feel like it's unfolding? Why don't we experience our entire life at once? Why are we aware of this moment but not next Tuesday? Physics can describe a model of reality. What it doesn't fully explain is our experience of reality. And that's where consciousness enters the conversation. Every day, we have the feeling of moving through time. We remember the past. We anticipate the future. We experience the present. Life feels like a journey. One event leads to another. One choice leads to another. One day becomes the next. But if the block universe is right, that feeling may not be telling the whole story. The timeline itself may not be moving. Instead, it may be our awareness that's moving through the timeline. That's a very different way of thinking about things. Imagine taking a flashlight into a dark room. The room already exists. The walls and the furniture is already there. Yet you only experience the part illuminated by the beam. As the flashlight moves, different parts of the room come into view. Some researchers and philosophers have suggested that consciousness may function in a similar way, not creating the timeline, experiencing it, exploring it, moving through it. Now, it's important to be clear here. This isn't a proven scientific fact. It's a way of thinking about a question that physics alone doesn't answer. But it does help explain something interesting. The block universe may describe the structure. Consciousness may describe the experience. One tells us what reality could be. The other asks why reality feels the way it does. And once you start looking at it that way, a new possibility begins to emerge. Maybe consciousness isn't simply a passive passenger moving through a predetermined timeline. Maybe it's playing a more active role. After all, our lives don't feel predetermined. We make choices. We change our minds. We learn. We grow. We imagine different futures. And sometimes those imagined futures become our reality. Because some researchers didn't stop at the question of whether the future exists. They began asking something even more provocative. Could reality contain countless possibilities rather than a single predetermined outcome? Could the life you're experiencing right now be just one path among many? And if multiple possibilities exist, What determines which one becomes your experience? One of the people who explored this question most extensively was Seth. If you're unfamiliar with Seth, the material was presented through author Jane Roberts beginning in the 1960s and would eventually become some of the most influential consciousness literature ever published. What makes Seth particularly interesting in the context of today's discussion is that he addressed a problem that naturally emerges from the block universe. If the future already exists, where does free will fit in? At first glance, the block universe can sound deterministic. If tomorrow already exists, what difference do our choices make? Seth approached the question from a completely different angle. He suggested that reality contains not one future, but countless probable futures, many paths, many possible tomorrows. According to Seth, consciousness is constantly moving through a field of probabilities. Every decision, every belief, every expectation, every change in self-concept alters the probabilities we experience. This is where Seth's model becomes so fascinating. Free will doesn't disappear, it becomes essential. Your choices matter because they influence which probabilities become part of your experience. Imagine standing in front of a vast landscape filled with countless roads stretching toward the horizon. The roads already exist. You didn't create them, but you can choose which direction to travel. In Seth's view, reality works in a similar way. Possibilities exist, potential futures exist, yet the path you experience is not independent of your consciousness. It's deeply connected to it. This creates a very different picture of reality than the one most of us grew up with. Instead of imagining the future as a blank page waiting to be written, Seth invites us to see it as a field of possibilities. Instead of asking, "What's going to happen to me?" we begin asking, "Which possibility am I moving toward?" And perhaps more importantly, which possibility am I identifying with right now? Because according to Seth, the person you believe yourself to be today has a great deal to do with the reality you experience tomorrow. From this perspective, consciousness is not merely observing reality. It's participating in the selection of experience itself. What's fascinating is that Seth wasn't alone in exploring ideas like these. Over the years, a number of physicists have proposed models of reality that challenge the idea of a single unfolding timeline. One example is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. Proposed by physicist Hugh Everett, it suggests that reality may be far larger than it appears, and that multiple outcomes may continue to exist, rather than narrowing into a single path. Other physicists have explored concepts involving parallel realities, additional dimensions, and various forms of the multiverse. The details differ from one theory to another, but a common theme keeps emerging. Reality may be far bigger than the small slice we experience day to day, and perhaps that's the most intriguing part of all. Different people, starting in completely different places, keep ending up questioning whether reality is larger than a single timeline. Physicists arrive there through mathematics and quantum theory. Consciousness researchers arrive there through the study of awareness and experience. Philosophers arrive there through questions about the nature of existence itself. Different paths, similar questions. The deeper we look, the harder it becomes to see reality as a simple story moving from past to future. Instead, we're confronted with a possibility that is both exciting and unsettling. Reality may be far richer than it appears. What I find most interesting about all of this isn't the question of whether the future already exists. It's what these ideas suggest about consciousness. Throughout this video, we've explored perspectives from physics, philosophy, and consciousness research. Some challenge our assumptions about time. Others challenge our assumptions about reality itself. Yet they all point towards something deeper. Consciousness is not an afterthought. It's not something happening on the sidelines. It's at the center of the experience itself. The reality you experience is never just about events. It's also about perspective, identity, meaning, the way you see yourself and your place in the world. And perhaps that's why ideas like these continue to resonate. They remind us that reality is far richer than it appears, that the future may be far more open than we've assumed, and that consciousness is not separate from the story of our lives. It's part of it. Thank you for watching The Conscious Creator. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who enjoys exploring these bigger questions. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep creating consciously.